Hello YouTube, this is Dakota from Bowtied Media, and today we're going to make a bingo card. You know the phrase when something big happens throughout the year and you kind of say, oh, I didn't have that on my bingo card this year? Well, why don't we actually make one? So yes, for the year 2025 in the EDM space, I have crafted my own bingo card. So when indeed something crazy happens, I can look back and say, well, that wasn't on my bingo card. I've gathered a list of random predictions, things that are maybe rumored but not true to be confirmed, a bunch of stuff that I think may happen throughout the year, and we'll see if by the end of December 2025 that I've actually got bingo or multiple bingos, maybe, we'll see. And I would implore you as well, if you want to make your own bingo card of random predictions that you think is going to happen throughout the years, do it, make one, or even take my list and just shuffle the order around in some capacity and see if you can beat me at my own bingo card with just a different type of bingo, because it's all random for the most part. But let's hop into what I actually have on my card. Starting us off in the top left, and my first sort of prediction for the year is that we're going to have a pop artist on Monstercat. This, in my opinion, is a great entrant to have on a card like this, a bingo thing, because it's something that we've already had in the past. We had Julia Michaels and Joe Jonas, and I guess even Diesel, I guess you could say, is a pop artist slash famous figure on Monstercat. And so it's not out of the realm of impossibility, but also nothing's been confirmed, and we don't really know if there's going to be anything coming down the pipeline in the next year. And so just a good, like, it's happened before, and I can see it happening again, so that is my first entrant. Up next, we've got the Chainsmokers Radio Hit. All things considered, the last couple years for the Chainsmokers has been pretty underwhelming. They haven't had any major big hits in terms of stuff that's played on the radio or stuff that a ton of people are going to hear. They put out a couple of EPs and albums, but for the most part, they've been fairly underwhelming and haven't done super well commercially. My prediction for 2025 is that the Chainsmokers are going to come back in a huge way with a big new either song or album or something like that, primarily probably just a song. And also, if I were to give a second guess on here, which I'm not technically counting, but I think it's going to be a big collaboration in something to the likes of something just like this with with Coldplay. And so I think we'll get a big song or big collaboration from the Chainsmokers, and you'll see them back in the limelight once again. Up next, I've got Popular Label Goes Under, or I guess Popular Label just chooses not to exist anymore. I think we had a bit of a weird awakening with Never Say Die, so ironic, that they ended up dying, and we were kind of just like, oh, labels can sort of not exist anymore because they didn't in the first place. They've never been around forever, and a lot of them are only like 15 to 20, maybe a little bit more older in years. And so a lot of the big ones, I think there's a chance that one, I don't necessarily want to say go under, but definitely ceases to exist by the end of 2025. So it's a prediction that I don't really want to come true, but one that I think might happen. Next, we've got underground artist breakthrough. I'm primarily thinking about the way that SZA kind of came onto the scene this year in 2024, I should say this past year of 2024. And I think there'll be another artist kind of like that in 2025 that makes a either big EP, big LP, or something that is just talked about very highly and highly revered in the community and critical space of the EDM industry. And so I think we're going to have a little bit more underground influence all throughout 2025. That would be my prediction. Another thing that's not necessarily on here. But I think we're going to get another big kind of underground artist have a real breakthrough year. Then we got major drama from a major festival. I'm kind of thinking in this realm sort of like the Fyre Festival style of big kind of craziness that happened. I don't think it needs to be as much as Fyre Festival was, but just sort of some festival that had a big canceling for some big reason that was on their own volition, that wasn't like an outside external factor, something like that, or just a lot of controversy around some big EDM festival, whether it's like Ultra or Tomorrowland or something like that. I think there's going to be some drama coming in 2025. Up next, I've got a terrible EDM/dance pop nomination for the next set of Grammys, which will technically be the 2026 Grammys, because 2025 hasn't even happened yet, but it's for the nominations before. So the next round of Grammy nominations, I think there'll be at least one nomination there that's just absolutely terrible. This is another one that, yes, historically has happened in the past. The Grammys have not been very, just on brand and on point, I think, in the EDM and kind of dance pop spaces. They've been pretty well, I would say, the last 2 years, and so I'm very curious to see what the 2026 nominations will bring, and I think there'll be at least one stinker in there. And up next, I've just got straight up Skrillex Album. Skrillex had a crazy 2023 year, and sort of at the back end tail half of it had sort of teased this like Skrillex Contra, sort of another 2-part album thing that seemed like it was going to come out in 2023 and then seemed like it was going to come out in 2024, and alas, that did not happen. And so I think if history sort of repeats itself in 2023, I think we're going to get another Skrillex album, and if I were to predict again, probably another double album, probably 2 albums this year would be my prediction. Nothing's confirmed, don't know anything at this point, so that is my prediction. And up next, we got something I don't really want to happen, but I think it's going to. Bowtied Beef. Considering that this channel is pretty small still in the grand scheme of things, at the time of recording, I think I'm just about around 6,500 subscribers. So again, thank you very much. I really appreciate you guys that watch. But in the grand scheme of things, I'm a very small content creator. And when it comes to very small content creators, you don't really get beef because it doesn't really make a lot of sense. And so I'm not saying I'm becoming bigger by any means, but I mean I am growing to the point where I think I've had enough sort of hot takes and or not really looked upon well opinions about some things. And I think with a lot of artists in the community, I think there's just a random artist I'll maybe go like, oh, hey, I want to see what people thought about my album. And then they go and they're like, oh, he did not. I didn't like what he said about that. And so, yeah, I would predict maybe a beef. I haven't had anything at all at any point, which is a good thing because I hope when I talk about things in a poor manner, when I think stuff isn't very good, when I put it in the bad or trash category, I at least give my honest opinion and real criticism for why I don't like a certain thing, and not just say, ew, this is bad because of it's just bad. But yeah, I think this might be the year for beef for Bowtied. Then we've got a MASTERHAND EP or LP announced in, I believe, 2023 at the end, or early 2024 was the MASTERHAND collaboration group of Eptic, Space Laces, and Sudden Death. And I think, even though this is mainly like a kind of a touring kind of group to go together, I think they will produce some sort of EP or LP, at least a single, but this prediction in general will be an EP or LP. I just think it's going to happen. I think with Eptic in particularly taking a break from touring, at least to some extent, which we found out in early 2025. I think they'll have more time to be in the studio cooking up some fire projects. And so I think we're going to get some MASTERHAND project this year. Next up, we've got a major Riddim LP, a major Riddim album. I think similar to the way that also Sizzy sort of broke out this year and had a real Riddim album. Like other than Sizzy, like what other albums were there out there that were like truly a Riddim album? I think a lot of times there's a lot of Riddim EPs, but not often full-length projects to the extent that Sizzy had, or at least to also the critical reception and or popularity that Sizzy had. I'm sure there's a lot of Riddim albums out there, but they're just not necessarily so much in my wheelhouse or stuff that I really resonated with in some capacity. So I think we'll get a big Riddim album this year that will kind of be a pivotal kind of bookmark kind of checkpoint in the year for specifically Riddim as a genre. So that's my prediction. Then I've got a re-released sort of classic LP in the same vein as the kind of World's 10-year anniversary that was this past year, and or the kind of Daft Punk and Random Access Memory anniversary that was 2 years ago, I think, at this point. And so I think with the way that the current music culture just is in the industry, I think we're going to get some more re-released classics. I didn't want to intentionally look up what albums were coming at their like 10, 20, or 15-year anniversary because I didn't want to feel like that was a shoo-in for this one, so I genuinely didn't look, and off memory, I'm not exactly 100% certain which ones I think the Avicii True, I want to say, is 2015 or something like that. I think David Guetta might have been too, but his one of his albums, but I didn't intentionally look it up, and I'm curious to see if we're going to get some more of those kind of re-released classics this year in 2025. And this one, I hope, is a sort of also a free spot. Right next to the free spot is a Madeon release. Madeon in 2024 said he was on his hiatus year, his break year, his gap year is really what he said. And I'm hoping the gap year was very fruitful for him in terms of rest and creativity and just the revitalization of his craft and wanting to come back even stronger than before. And so I'm saying Madeon release because if I were to give a real prediction, I think we're just going to get a couple of singles this year, maybe at the tail end of the year with some sort of EP, LP into next year would be my actual prediction. I'd be really happy if we got a Madeon album or something this year, but I think we'll get a couple of smattering of things, but nothing big project-wise. So Madeon release is here on this list. Then we've got something that I hope is also a shoo-in. We've got Charli XCX wins a Grammy. Yes, you either love to hate it or you hate to love it, or you just love to love it, like I do with Charli XCX. I mean, damn, Brat's gotta win something. I mean, either like a song or a record or even album, even either the dance pop category or the main category. I think Charli XCX has to run away with something. It's got so much critical reception. It is kind of a weird one for Grammy audiences, and it's kind of an oddball just kind of pick in general. The one that I think if Charli XCX wins, like let's say Album of the Year, a lot of commercial listeners and people will be like, really? Like kind of really? But then you're like, oh, yeah, it should have won. So Charli XCX at least wins something, right? And up next, I've got Deadmau5 LP, a Deadmau5 album. It has been a long time now, coming on, I believe, 9 years since the last official solo sort of Deadmau5 album with the W whatever 2016. It was called whatever the 2016 album was. And so I think we're getting a new Deadmau5 album. He's said and teased some new things. We even got a new track already in Jupiter, but also that could have easily just been a one-off single release or could have been a part of an EP. But I do think, and my prediction is, it's finally time for another Deadmau5 album. And then up next, I've got Marshmello releases one of his best tracks to date. Marshmello has very much a love-hate relationship with the EDM community because he started off as a purely sort of EDM producer with some pretty decent stuff that a lot of people did enjoy, then went this more pop-leaning route, and then kind of lost a lot of fandom within the EDM-specific space and EDM-adjacent spaces, but now has had this weird kind of roller coaster of kind of coming back and doing this, like, it's Riddim Time EP and kind of going back to his roots, and then creating, like, country singles with Miles on it. Like, Marshmello's had a weird year this past couple years, or the last couple years, I should say. And I think he's going to have at least one song this year that's going to be like, this is actually one of his best songs, and Marshmello can actually make some pretty decent music. The next on my bingo card is a new game X kind of label collab. I would think very much in the realm of an NCS and Geometry Dash or Monstercat and Rocket League. I think there'll be a big new game, or not necessarily a new game, but at least a bigger game that kind of comes into the cultural mindset, cultural industry, and kind of in the forefront of just culture in general. And I think they will be a big label that collabs with them in some capacity. Could be even something like Disciple, could be Monstercat again, could be NCS again, could be Bitbird. But I think we're going to see a big new game and a big new kind of, not new label, but big new collaboration between a game and a label for 2025. And up next, I'm going to say there's going to be a new EDM Game Show. And this one, all I'll say is I'll hope it's a self-fulfilling prophecy if I can get all of my ducks in a row. So new EDM Game Show, maybe that'll be a fun thing for 2025. And up next, I've got a random Daft Punk re-release. With Daft Punk's retirement in 2021, technically, even though their last album was really 2013. Daft Punk's managerial team or whoever owns the rights to their stuff has been re-releasing random stuff. They released Veritas Quo, I think, at the very end of 2024 for some strange reason, a single from Discovery. It doesn't really make a whole ton of sense. And so I think we'll get a random, either just another single, like it's going to be like Voyager off Discovery, or something like Daft Indirect that's going to get like a random single again from like the early Homework album. I think something like that's going to get a random re-release, and it's not going to make sense, and it's going to fly under the radar because we already know these songs exist, and I think it's going to happen. Up next, I think there will be a pop artist that releases an EDM record. I'm thinking similar vein here to the Beyonce EDM record with Renaissance or Charli XCX with Brat. I would say a more pop-focused kind of artist that does release something that is more specifically EDM. I don't think someone like a Dua Lipa counts here because Dua Lipa always kind of does this dance pop, and I wouldn't actually say Charli XCX counts either because her stuff is often this kind of dance pop style, but definitely in the realm of someone like a Beyonce, or I mean even Post Malone made a transition over to country music, so why not make EDM at this point for him too? So I think we'll see another pop artist do a big 2025 album. And I've got one day to get this next one right, and I think there will be a new big April Fool's song. I don't think it necessarily needs to be as big as Crab Rave was. I think it could be something on the similar lines of the Banana song, or at least a little bit of hype in some capacity towards this, or secretiveness about this new upcoming sort of April Fool's song that is just a song that's a little bit more on the silly side. And so I don't think it has to be Monstercat by any means. I think it could be any label, but at least something that's at least a little bit more in the mainstream, something I would maybe review on This Week in EDM that is a April Fool's haha funny song. And up next, I've got a major artist retirement. I think with all of the recent sort of tourings getting canceled from a lot of artists just because of mental health and stuff like that, which I think is a good thing, by the way. I think you really do need to focus on mental health and focus on that, I guess, more studio time even, rather than being out and about on tour and buses and stuff, and it's just draining, I've heard from a lot of people. And so, I think we'll see a big artist retirement. I don't want to say a death. I thought about putting that on here. That just feels not great to me because I don't want that to happen at all, obviously. But I think we'll see a big artist have a big retirement speech, kind of like Daft Punk. It says like, hey, we're done. We're out of the game. And next up, I think there's going to be a big sort of EDM and rap collab project. EDM and rap have been very much intermingled all throughout the years, especially in the American scene side of things. And so I think there'll be a pretty big, not so much a hip hop like leaning or aesthetically focused tonally album. Like I think of something on the lines of like even Chase and Status with their Too Rough mixtape. And so I think it won't be something like D&B that has like a hip hop flair to it. I think it'll like really be like a big kind of collaboration. I think we'll just see like a big either artist collaboration between like a legit rapper and a legit EDM artist that come together for an album of some sorts, a big collab project, an EP or something like that. I think rap's going to come back in full force in EDM this year. And stylistically, on the opposite side of that, I think we're going to get a big new EDM Christmas album. This one is a tough one to predict, I think more so because there really isn't a lot out there. There's some compilations and random EPs and stuff like that, but really in my mind, I really only think of Cascade, who did the 2 Christmas albums, and those are pretty much the main, in my head, primary sort of Christmas albums. I don't think Cascade's going to do a part 3. I would be shocked if he did, but I do think come the Christmas season, we're going to get some Christmas album. And finally, we've got a HIVEMIND EP or LP. Together with the creative minds of Kaizo, Space Laces again, and Must Die for a big triple collab sort of alias here in HIVEMIND, I think the 3 of them here will come together and make a big either EP or LP, something that will hit the big kind of streaming numbers even within the EDM community, and will be a real moment in history of a big collaboration project. And I think we will get that in 2025. So what do you think of this bingo card? Do you think these are some accurate predictions? Do you think none of this is going to happen? Do you think already these are bad picks for my 2025? I'd love to hear in the comments section below, and I'd love to hear if you guys have your own bingo card, and or if you want to kind of shuffle around what I have to make your own. But other than that, I'm Dakota from Bowtied Media, and I'll see you guys in another video.